I got water, I have a stapler, man, I'm rolling over here. I'm the man.
As well as I can hear you coming across the mic right now, I better sit back.
Yeah, I told him I'll put it on top of my head, just bring it down.
Try not to forget you tonight when I do roll call.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I do, there's a little green light there.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 19th of 2018 Muscatine City Council meeting. Thank you all for coming, and Cinda, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Spread?
Present.
Harvey?
Present.
Rockert?
Present.
Saucedo?
Present.
Rackett?
Present.
Fitzgerald?
Present.
Malcolm?
Malcolm, present.
7 present, 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We have a couple of different things under our communications line tonight. And first of all, I'd like to invite Brian Steinmetz up to the podium. He is going to introduce a couple of new staff members that we have that we're excited to have on board.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I would like to introduce a couple of new hires that we've had in the recent months. David Popp was hired in April. David is the solid waste manager. He took over for Christy Corpy. He has a few items on the agenda tonight, so you'll probably get to hear from him a little bit later. And Pat Lynch is our new assistant city engineer. Pat started Monday, so he's got his feet in the fire already. So we want to welcome both of them to the city of Muscatine, and we appreciate their efforts, and we expect great things from them. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Do you mind stopping up around the desk and shaking hands with council? Just come around the front. Good to see you again, Dave. There's a long time no see, Pat.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Next on our communications item, we are going to have a presentation by Jim Harbaugh. We've moved you up a titch.
We didn't coordinate this very well. I apologize. So I just wanted to do a brief intro for Jim and get the mic warmed up for him. So Jim will be doing the presentation that he did this evening. We just wanted to make it very brief. He will be back later this fall, probably October, with 90% plans, taking the information that we gained from tonight's meetings and incorporating that into, or those comments into the plans. So if you have any questions, or if there's anything that's just a hard no, adamant, we got to know about it, please let us know about it tonight so we can incorporate that. Otherwise, we'll just go through the presentation briefly and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Brian. Welcome, Jim. Thanks for doing the public meeting earlier.
Thank you, and thank you for all the strong attendance tonight. It's going to be a little bit of deja vu because a lot of you saw the presentation, so I'll make it very brief, but I wanted to make sure that we go through. And please interrupt if you have any questions or comments on anything, likes or dislikes as part of the project. Please let us know. We're just rolling into the beginning of final design now, and I thought it was an opportune time to take it out to the community and talk to them about what we're looking at planning to do as part of it and get feedback. You know the project team, and you probably know the project extents, but just a refresher, we're from the Highway 61 bypass to Pearl Street. Where we're at, like I said, final design. We're just starting that. That'll carry through to almost to the end of the year. So we're setting up for a bidding in the winter for start of spring 19 construction, and that'll take about 2 years to do, and we'll phase that accordingly. Some of the things that are similar to our Mississippi Drive project, everybody refers back to that because it's still under construction for starters, but it's been a major change for the downtown area. We do have similar traffic volumes, and We're looking at some enhanced pedestrian opportunities along Grandview. Probably not to the level of what some of the Mississippi Drive things are, but similar in character. And that's the same thing with incorporating some of the architectural elements. We're really looking at improving and replacing those aging utilities out there, which include some stormwater, some sanitary water, working with MPW to identify what the needs are out there. And then a lot of the Grandview corridor itself has some pretty poor pavement out there, and we're looking at replacing what needs to be replaced out there. What is different, we will have less of the decorative items than we have on Mississippi Drive because it is a different character of corridor. We will not have a center median because we have so many turn-offs, driveways and whatnot along Grandview. It just doesn't make sense through there. We do have a broad mix of adjacent land uses, so we have to accommodate that throughout the whole corridor. And the corridor changes as you go through it. It's a very urban, and then on the north side, and gets very almost to the rural level on the very south side. So it changes, and our philosophy is going to change as we go through on the design process as well. Goals is to modernize Grandview, and provide a safe and attractive corridor. Safety is definitely paramount. But also development opportunities and future growth for the community along this corridor is really intrinsic to this. We're going to improve that pavement and utilities. We want to engage the public throughout this process. That's why we had a meeting tonight, and we will have one later this fall. And then implementing a community-supported and really a technically sound project. As I stated in the meeting earlier tonight, you see a lot of graphics and color images and whatnot, but really those are technically supported. They're not just design. We go through the process of engineering it before we even put it to paper. Corridor analysis, I'll just breeze through really quick. We have several major intersections throughout the corridor that we're focusing on for safety and aesthetic improvements. We're also looking at that pedestrian aspect. This corridor does not have a whole lot of pedestrian amenities existing, and our goal is to bring some of that in as part of this project and start linking into our existing trail system, and also future trail systems that we have along Oregon that crosses Grandview. As far as character imagery, you'll see some of these similar elements that you have on Mississippi Drive implemented on Grandview, but to a little different degree, probably a little diluted just because we have less right-of-way to work with. We want to bring these unique elements in, but do it in a proper fashion for this corridor. In our typical cross sections, south of Hauser, the roadway section is going to stay very similar to what it is currently, with the addition of some sidewalk in some areas. From Hauser to Day Street, where there's an existing 2-lane, we're looking at a 3-lane section with sidewalks on both sides. And from Day Street to Pearl Street, instead of a 4-way section, we're looking at the railroad crossing a 2-lane section and then a 3-lane section north of the railroad. And when I say north, I'm just for discussion points, I'm thinking Grandview is north-south, but it is not actually. So some looks at the key intersections here. This is the intersection of Warren and Oregon and Grandview, where we're looking at new signalization, bringing in some pedestrian elements on that, and having a 3-lane section through that. Keeping in mind that we have some truck traffic and whatnot coming through here. I want to make sure we accommodate that as part of this project. You will see also a new trail coming through there from the east to west. We cross the tracks on the east side, come across the intersection, head south, and then parallel the Dollar General property.
On the right-hand side, there's a business there, and it's not indicated.
That is correct.
On your drawing.
And just so you know, we are within the existing right-of-way out there on all our elements
So
here.
it would be back further from that.
Correct.
Okay. How do they have access to it?
Access is just off the plans to the right,
Okay. Okay.
closer to the tracks, right? Other way. What's that? And on Grandview.
And on Grandview. Okay. Okay.
This is a look at a pedestrian and trail crossing. This is south down by Mississippi's, pedestrian only crossing as you're coming up Grandview. This is one of the key areas that we looked at for a gateway element and also a trail connection to bring pedestrian use into that existing trail. So it's kind of a dual purpose. We also looked at pedestrian crossing flashing beacons at this area to slow down traffic if there are pedestrians in that area.
Is there a sidewalk on across the street from Mr. Sippy's then?
There is, correct.
So it's sidewalk, not a trail over on that side?
Sidewalk on the west side, yep.
Okay.
This is the intersection that's probably had the most discussion and research. We've looked at multiple different options for Hauser, looked at roundabouts at one point, looked at the traffic volumes that we have, looked at the safety factors, looked at potential grant funding through traffic safety improvements, and ultimately came up with a more traditional intersection that accommodates some of the issues that we have out there with stacking distance. That's why you'll see if you're going north on Grandview, you'll have a dedicated right turn lane there for more stacking distance. Just the realignment of the Sampson side of things actually gives more space and stacking distance on the Grandview side of the tracks. And then you'll see a dedicated right on the Hauser side of things and a left and through here again for the ability to have some stopped traffic in there but still have traffic flowing as part of this. And then a 3-lane section would transition as you're coming up to the Hauser intersection from the north and would continue from there. Some of the architectural elements that we're looking at large-scale gateway monuments on the very south end, the potential for kiosks at the future trailhead at Hauser, more kiosks at Oregon and intersection markers as well, all the way up to Pearl. Had some good discussion with people at the open house tonight about the ability to bring in some of the historical aspects of the area into some of these kiosks and intersection markers, and we'll be reaching out to the Historical Society to coordinate with them on that to bring that kind of historical element in. Green infrastructure could be a very big part of this project. Because of the soils that we have out there, it's pretty conducive to that. And we're looking at a hybrid system with some urban section and also some ditch section that would function as bioswales. And we're going to be working with, we've been directed to talk to Muscatine County Conservation to talk about plant families that we can use within that bioswale that might work well, that's worked well for them. And working with the city on the stormwater side of things to make sure that this is a maintainable and usable green infrastructure project. That's on the south side of the project at Briars Ditch. We're looking also at some stormwater enhancements, and also as you get farther north in some smaller scale elements, as you can see on the far right when we get into a more urban section. So as I mentioned before, this is a 2-year construction project with multiple phases to each stage of it. We do want to really minimize the impact to business and property owners out there. We want to minimize road closures as much as possible. Where there is spots where it makes sense to fully close the road and get in there as quickly as possible and open it back up, we will do that. For instance, like at Briars Ditch, where we're putting culvert all the way across the roadway. We'll also develop the construction plan sets to have liquidated damages for those interim completion dates for contractors to make sure that once they start things up, then they get it done as quickly as possible. Start of construction is in 2019. And just what's next? We do have a to-do list here. It's ever-changing and always adding to it, of course. But we want to refine the corridor design and develop the construction documents. And what I'd like to hear from you tonight, if there's any absolutely nots or absolutely do's, based on what you've seen so far in the process and what you've heard from the community. We want to continue working through those design challenges. This is a pretty challenging corridor. It may not feel like it as you're driving through, but we do have very limited space. We have issues with elevations. We have issues with access management, lots of different driveways that maybe should not have put in exactly how they were, kind of thing, but that's something that we're dealing with through the whole thing. Once we get through those design challenges, that's when we develop those final plans and specs. So this is a pretty key time to really voice any opinions on things, because the next step after that is bidding and construction. as Brian had alluded to, we will be back again to talk to you as we are more fully developed with the final design documents, and I anticipate that in about an October timeline. But any thoughts would help us with our informed designs decisions tonight.
I had
Go
one.
ahead.
Oh,
Councilman Salcedo.
So, I had just a few questions in regards to, you mentioned they were gonna be doing in phases, similar to the phases that we have done now. Will, this coming up in early 2019, you're probably gonna be starting in the spring, I would expect.
That is correct.
And in the phases that we have seen with Mississippi Drive, we basically shut the whole road down. And what you mentioned earlier right now is that that's not gonna be the plan in this. So would that mean that you would have one side of the road going east open, maybe one side of the road going west, or maybe turning the traffic onto one-on-one ways? Is that gonna be presented in your design review? Because I don't want Grandview Avenue to be completely closed, as what we've already done in the Mississippi Drive Act.
Correct. We have at least 4 phases with multiple sub-phases within each one. There are 2 spots within the whole corridor that we're looking at a full closure for a very short period of time, just so that we can quickly get in, get some storm sewer across, and then open it back up for business. It is not going to be, and those closures are very limited, like Briar's Ditch area would be one. It would be only the closure at Briar's Ditch. We would have full access to businesses on both sides during that process, and then we'd open them up as quickly as possible.
So you're anticipating semi-traffic, things like that in those designs, correct?
Yeah, and we will have dedicated detour routes as well during the process, because during this process, depending on the phase, we may have one lane of traffic coming through on Grandview and the other lane detoured around.
Okay. My next 2 questions. The traditional lights that we had in what you mentioned you weren't going to plan on doing in this design, is that something that you're going to say, okay, we're going to go with traditional, or we're going to look for input from the community to say like we did on the Mississippi Drive before you get to design? Where are we at on that?
I can tell you, the plan for now is to utilize lighting similar to what's on Cedar. So it would be a black decorative, not a historic looking fixture, but a more contemporary fixture. That would, so
that's,
go ahead.
sorry, that's MPW's new standard pole, and that would be no cost to the city. That'd be through our partner MPW, use that standard pole.
I saw on your Sampson, Grandview, Hauser design, there was no lights in that.
You're talking about street lights.
Correct, correct. And the one when you did the Mississippi Drive, we actually went out, reached out, had like in the community events, we went out and reached and said, okay, I want this old style light, kind of a different type. And so then we picked those out. And that was with the same thing on Bolton Mink. Here, I don't even see the lights. So I just make sure we're putting in lights.
So,
and I don't know if this is final design, because a couple months ago there was discussion of a roundabout, which I'm fine with this perfectly, but I don't know if we're going to come back and say, hey, this is the final design.
we're actually working with MPW to come out with a lighting layout. We don't show any currently on here. That's not to say that they're not going in though. I would say it's an oversight on our graphics group that we haven't put them in yet.
But it is that standard black pole, rather
Okay,
than the
I just-
historic pole that was,
That's
or
with
style
the
that was
three-way,
used
obviously,
downtown.
a big wide opening.
Yep.
Okay, so my last question was just on this actual picture too, is this the actual final design for that?
Unless there's some minor tweaks to it, this is the preferred alternative at this point.
I like that better than the road.
Councilman Brackett?
You all, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I said, you all know that I am a proponent of roundabouts. That's no secret.
So if you could have, you would have.
No, I wouldn't have. This is,
I mean,
we
if you
vetted-
could have made it work.
Yes.
Yes.
If it made sense, we would have advocated for it. Because of the size that we needed here, because of the fact that it was a 5-lane leg, because of the cost associated, and because we couldn't get safety funding for it, it did not make sense at this point, which pained me personally,
I bet.
but it made sense.
Go
So
ahead.
in the bioswale sections, further in the southern portion of this, one of the questions that I received at the presentation earlier that I don't know if the individual got answered was that currently it's a very steep ditch and he maintains the mowing in that ditch, but it's quite pricey. And
We did get an answer to that.
Oh, did you get-
Yes, he did. Yes.
Okay, so then with that, when the bioswale goes in though, I mean, that's not something that you're gonna want people mowing or anything themselves, or are they?
That's correct. What we're looking at is more of a native pothole prairie type planting through the bioswale section.
Something that'll look nice even when it's just left to grow on its own?
Correct.
Perfect, okay.
And the last one I talked to you about, and then I talked to city staff, was sidewalks along this, because we have a policy for complete streets that would include sidewalks. We have a 2-mile limit that out in the county that we require sidewalks or have, and I just want to make sure that we follow along with that.
Sidewalks were about 50% of the discussion tonight, and it was interesting hearing both sides of the story on things. As it's planned currently, the majority of the corridor down to Hauser has sidewalks on both sides. Once we get past Hauser, here again, the character changes a little bit as far as the density of properties, the speed limit, and that sort of thing. So we're limiting sidewalks south of there.
Except in one section. So
Except in one section.
Go to an intersection with sidewalks, and then you don't have any sidewalks, and then you have sidewalks again, and then you don't have any sidewalks. Looks like Tanglefoot.
Well, and I would express that I would be very interested in seeing the options sooner than later that come from the discussion about exactly this, the sidewalks, and as well as those properties that I think you're aware of, that business owners down there had a lot of concern about their parking and what might be able to be done in that area. I definitely would like to see that addressed with enough time to make accommodation or adjustment and not have last minute problems.
Sounds good. And just to clarify, when you talk about parking, you're talking about parking on the private property.
I would like to see I'm not giving you I'm not pushing any one direction. I'm just asking that, those business owners' concerns be addressed, early on in this stage of the process before we get to the final vote.
Sounds good. And I know that the city has had some property owner meetings and invited people that have any impacts as part of their property. I think that needs to probably be ongoing, though.
I would agree.
Anyone, Councilman?
Yes.
Councilman
Back to Hauser and Sampson and Grandview, what kind of traffic signals are we putting in there?
We're looking at an all-way stop sign condition here,
All right,
not traffic signals.
okay, so good old basic stop signs.
Good old basic stop signs.
Okay,
And there's a couple reasons behind that. One, during our traffic study, we do signal warrants on intersections. This particular intersection does not meet any requirements for traffic signals. And it sounds like they were put in the past because of a construction project and were just left in. As the traffic volumes are currently, it does not even warrant an all-way stop. But if we looked 20 years down the line, if we have some additions to the traffic volumes, it would warrant an all-way stop at that particular time. So we can put the all-way stop in the stop signs on all four corners as part of this project. We also talked that, although I'm not a big advocate for traffic calming, using stop signs as traffic calming, we do have a major speeding, I don't want to say issue, but a challenge as you're coming off the Dick Drake Highway. It's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit up to Hauser, and then it changes to 35 there. So this is a break, if you will, to help make that change.
So does the traffic count at this intersection, you said didn't warrant even the stop signs? Does the traffic count get in, or is the quantity of traffic get heavier as you get towards Carver Corner?
It does north of the tracks, but we're not looking at doubling volumes or anything. Greg, do you remember 10% more, roughly?
Because my only little stab at this is the fact that we have a roundabout potentially at Carver Corner, and if its stop signs aren't even necessary down here and the roundabout's out of the question, then do we need to eliminate the thought process of a roundabout at Carver Corner down the road?
I can say that Carver Corner has higher traffic volumes, and there are the potential, and I will have to go back and look at the Mississippi Drive traffic study to validate it, potential side street safety issues.
I didn't know how far up Grandview you had traffic counts, or whether it was just at this intersection.
We have it through the whole corridor.
Okay.
We
But
looked at both traffic
to Pearl
volumes.
or to whatever the main street, and you went to that far.
We went to Maine, I believe. I'll have to check just to make sure. But we look at both traffic volumes, but also turning movements on intersections, and both of those come into play.
Okay.
Councilman Harvey?
Jim, does any of your future traffic projections at this intersection, would it ever warrant traffic signals, do you think?
Based on our projections, it does not. And, you know, with the current data that we have now, if I had a crystal ball and I could tell you exactly what might be developed along Grandview in the future, it may warrant it, but it's off by a pretty good factor right now.
I was just going to suggest if it did, you might consider facilitating whatever underground structures that you might need in the future as you're putting in the pavement, so to speak.
The nice thing is we have plenty of electric through that intersection, all different directions.
And granted, this might not be the very, very final design, but on the Sampson Street side of the intersection, where you have that median sticking out into the intersection just a little bit, just when you design it such that that car coming from town doesn't have to make more than a 90-degree angle to get onto Sampson. Medium doesn't cause him difficulty in making that turn.
It's like the median strip that's already there that rumble over the top. That's irritating.
I think the state did.
So one of the things we're doing on this,
some of those.
Sure.
Flying over it or what?
one of the things that we're doing on this intersection is actually trying to realign Sampson so that it's more perpendicular to Grandview than it is currently. It comes in at a pretty good angle right now, and we're trying to fix that as much as possible. Now, we don't have a lot of space between the tracks and Grandview to do that, so we're trying to, and that's why you have such a big, wide radius on that northeast corner, because we want to make sure that traffic can get around that corner as good as possible. So it's better than what it is currently. If it were an ideal world, we'd have it exactly perpendicular and have lots of space, but we're just limited for space to work with.
Anything else, council?
Just one question. Similar to what Councilman Harvey was asking, the underground infrastructure that we're already having, are we putting anything new besides just what you mentioned as far as earlier, are we putting in new sewer lines, any new power cables?
So specifically at the Hauser intersection, they're looking at doing undergrounding of some electrical work out there. Now, there is some pretty major transmission lines out there. Those stay where they're at. We've tried to actually work around those for MPW because there's pretty significant cost to even just moving one of the poles. We're working with MPW and looking at any of the water mains out there if they don't have enough cover on it, because our roadway will change a little bit in profile because we want to get better grades for stormwater out there. If it gets too shallow, we'll work with MPW to either insulate that existing main out there or to lower it if absolutely necessary. We'll also look at each individual water service out along the corridor and validate if it's a lead or galvanized service, we'll look at replacing it, at least to the corp stops. If it's too shallow, we'll look at lowering it as part of that. So we're working hand in hand with them, both on the water and electrical side of things. It is, at this point, not our intention to underground all the overhead electric throughout the corridor.
Okay, that's
but
what
it
I was
is.
getting at. I know we did a lot on the Mississippi Drive, and I think that for many in the public, that seems to be like, well, why does it take so long?
Yeah.
Well, that was a huge part. I mean, putting in main vaults and new electrical sub.
Yep,
you
and
know,
that's
basically
pretty
sheet-
major electrical down on Mississippi Drive, so
Yeah.
it takes
So
a,
that's why that's the timing, what you're doing for this is almost twice as much and twice as less time.
yep, lot less utilities as part of this project, at least the private side utilities.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim, we appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank you for all your
Greg, and
great
your whole
questions
team.
and your insight.
Yep, thank you. We're going to go ahead and continue on with tonight's agenda. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to council about something that's not already on tonight's agenda? I don't see anybody, so we're going to keep moving. We are now on the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes items 6A and B, items 8A through F, items 12A and B, and tonight's bills totaling $1,823,807.48.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
I'd like to remove item 8A.
Item 8A.
It references the Grandview design, and I don't think we want to appear as though we're approving something.
We'll remove it and consider it in its normal sequence. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? We got Councilman Brackett. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Saucedo to approve tonight's consent agenda, removing item 8A. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We are now on 8A. So we have a request for the renewal of a special Class C liquor license and Sunday sales for DeBeats Bistro, pending the inspections. Do I have a motion?
I think he just wanted the Grandview thing
The
that we
eight,
had in the
you're
wrong
reading,
place.
you're reading 8F.
Yeah, it's the 8A is the update on the Grandview Avenue design.
But so is
No,
8.
8A is,
8A is renewal for
Yeah, we've
special
got two item 8.
Keep scrolling down to 8A.
A's.
Yeah. But we've also got,
well, on the hard copy, 8A is DeBeats Bistro. I wondered why you were doing that. So you were talking about A8F, which is request for street closure for sanitary
No.
sewer repair?
no, we've got 8 here twice.
You have two A's?
8,
It's
2
that
8s.
it's the Grandview thing that we just did.
We just did, that we moved it.
Yeah,
And
yes.
what I'm saying is I
It's
don't think we
there.
want
It is
to,
an
we don't
8A.
want to run the
It's-
risk
it's
of
an
saying that
8A
we
too.
approve
It-
something in the consent
There
agenda.
are 2 8.
We should remove that.
What it
agree.
was the 8A, we had Jim Harbaugh come up and talk now under communications. We moved him from communications over here to doing it here at the beginning under communications. So it was just a movement in the agenda. I briefly said we moved him forward. So you don't have any other concerns?
No.
Okay.
No.
We'll keep moving then. We are on 7A. We have a public hearing tonight, and it concerns the proposed asphalt alley project. The City of Muscatine Public Works Department has compiled a list of alleys to be asphalt overlaid during fiscal year 2019. Prior to any formal action by City Council, a public hearing is required. Now is the time for the public to comment. Please come to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Chuck Beckman, 2135 Fifth Avenue. Do you have a list of the alleys you're going to do?
Actually, if you went online where the agenda comes out and you click on that item number, then you'll
Okay.
be able to see.
Well-
But it was not tonight's,
There
it
isn't
was
an item.
earlier. I believe it was
Last week.
last week, or
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Well, I was just wondering why we're doing alleys instead of some of the streets that are bad in this town. There's a lot of streets that need repaired, And I just kind of wanted to know what alleys we were going to do. I think that money would be better spent repairing streets rather than overlaying alleys.
Thank you for your comments. Brian, do you want to touch on that just for a second and explain?
And while Brian's going up, on page 34 is the list of the alleys. Under that particular agenda item, not under the public
Go
hearing,
ahead,
but the agenda item.
Oh, I was gonna say there was no red
So,
highlighted.
just to address the question, we receive roughly $1 million per year to do street maintenance. I decided this year that we would try to break that out, so we're spending roughly $900,000 on full depth patch for streets. We kept out $100,000 to do asphalt alley overlays because we do get a lot of complaints about alleys. There are several alleys that are in disrepair, so I figured 1/10 of the budget to do some alleys would be a good use of taxpayer funding and to try to make some improvements in some of the alleys that need it. So
90% of our funds allocated are going to streets.
Correct.
10% to alleys.
yes.
And he can find on page 34 which alleys we're talking about.
There is a list with the plans and specifications as well, yes. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Hearing no other discussion, do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries with all ayes. We're moving on down to 11A. Presented for City Council's consideration is the third and final reading of an ordinance decreasing the utility franchise fee from 5% to 2%. The fiscal year budget 18-19 included an increase in utility franchise fees to cover the city's loss of revenue for the University Avenue and Highway 61 ATE camera. The Iowa court recently ruled in favor of the city's appeal of the Iowa Department of Transportation's order for removal of this camera. Based on City Council discussion at the in-depth meeting, it is now proposed that the franchise fee be reduced from 5% to 2%. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance on third and final reading and to direct for its publication as required by law?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Nay.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted on third and final reading with a vote of 6 ayes and 1 nay. We are on 11B. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the final development plan for Oak Park Development Senior Housing Project. This plan has been approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and fully conforms with all applicable ordinances of the city and is in harmony with the comprehensive plan now in effect in the city. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
Councilman Spread.
Okay.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion?
One question.
Go ahead.
So we had mentioned earlier before the planning and zoning, they were going to review the drainage. Was that something that was addressed? Andrew?
I think you've asked that every time.
I know, because that's what they've asked.
Yes. Mayor, Council, yeah, that was, they submitted a full drainage plan. It was reviewed by the City Site Plan Review Committee and approved, so that it would work, so.
Good. I just
Any
wanted to make sure I
questions,
knew
be happy
that
to
they had
try to answer
asked
them.
before. Nope. I just
Thank
wanted
you,
to make sure we
Andrew.
addressed it. Go ahead.
Andrew, did
Go
the
ahead.
city engineer look at that also?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Councilman Brackett?
I was just going to say that I know that we've had a number of discussions and different opinions on this project leading up to this point, but I had received zero, concerns from any citizen, so I'm in favor at this
I
point.
have not
so,
either.
Yep.
Thank you. Hearing no other discussion, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
And Councilman Harvey.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11C. Presented for City Council's consideration is the second and final reading of an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the 2018 addition to the Consolidated Muscatine Urban Renewal Area pursuant to Section 403.19 of the Iowa Code. Is there a motion to waive the statutory rule requiring said ordinance to be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The motion carries with all ayes. Is there now a motion to adopt this ordinance on second and final reading and to direct for its publication as required by law?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
Was first.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted with all ayes. 11D. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the asphalt alley project plans, specifications, form of contract, cost estimate, and setting the date for receipt of bids, which is what we just talked about in the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So move.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Malcolm with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11E. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing regarding a proposed utility easement vacation of lots 4B and 4C Sunrise Subdivision and Lot 1 University Subdivision. The University Storage has submitted a request to vacate for certain properties to allow for the installation of additional storage units. Prior to City Council action, a public hearing is required. This public hearing will be held on August 2nd of 2018, 7 p.m. here in Council Chambers. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11F. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution authorizing the assessment of unpaid abatement costs to private properties. Periodically, the city takes action to assess unpaid nuisance abatement costs to private properties. The nuisance abatement costs for snow, junk, and weed removal total $1,553.10. The administrative costs are $925, and the assessment fees are $800. The total fee being requested for assessment at this time totals $3,278.10. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion?
One question.
Yes, sir.
On our fees that we're having for our toll assessments, for this example, 3,300, are we actually going down per year, per quarter, per month, anything? Or are we just going up?
No, actually, I believe that looking back at the history, we were at 11 to 15,000.
So
and so this is down to almost a maintenance level.
So it really
I'll
is
call it
kind of,
that.
in a sense, either the fees are working, the structure that we have, maybe the cost that these fees are being enforced.
Right, and it's getting it down to a point where it's probably normalized. But and over the last 3 to 4 years, we had gone from 15,000, like I said, to
I
to where we
remember
are now.
5,000, that's why the number sticks in my mind, and I see it
Well,
going
yeah,
down, but I don't, I
I
just
think
want to ask that question.
Councilor Fitzgerald will tell you when he remembers probably about 8,000 not too long ago.
Okay. That's all I have.
I'm going by your
Thank you.
tenure here.
Well, can we take a look at, you look at the last year and see what the habitual violators, if it's the same, still the same group or type, or are they banks, are they individuals? Just take a look at it and see
Yeah.
what it is. And
I
report
have done
back.
that in the past a couple of times anyway, because it's been asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call them top 10 and bottom 10 kind of thing, and majority of them are out of town, such as banks and finance companies that
Or an absentee owner.
yeah, that as well. We do have a small group of habitual offenders that are local.
Didn't we talk about staggering and increasing them for more multiple violations? At one time, I thought we talked about
I
that.
thought we did too.
They bump up to a different rate if they've been habitual.
Talked about parking tickets, because like after
Yes, we did
25,
that
you
too.
get so much.
Sure.
Oh yeah, maybe we can use Councilor Santos as an example.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Anything else? Thanks. Hearing no other discussion. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11G. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the contract and bond for the PCC Patching 2018 project. Bids were received and evaluated, and All American Concrete had the low bid at $1,013,213.50. Is there a motion to approve this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion?
This includes the Tanglefoot.
Tanglefoot's out of the sidewalk maintenance
It's out of the
program.
sidewalk maintenance,
The
okay.
$100,000 that we budget annually.
What's
Okay.
PCC again?
Oh, it's
Portland Cement and Concrete.
This is the deep core patching.
Okay.
Yeah.
Streets.
The whole PPC was like, what? PCC.
Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11H. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution awarding the contract for the Hauser Street Parking Expansion and Athletic Field. There's no period there. And Athletic Field Grading Project to Needham Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $641,983.61. 7 bids were received for this project, and the low bid was from Needham Excavating Incorporated. The approved budget for this project is $587,500. The overage for this project will be covered by deferring the soccer complex field number 3 improvement project budgeted at $120,000. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion?
Just a quick question. This seems to be a new contractor. I don't know whether do we have experience with him in the past?
I was gonna say, I haven't heard of him.
Yeah,
think I
neither
talked
did
to-
I.
have you
but-
got-
Is he out of Walcott? Okay,
Oh,
I've heard of him.
Good or bad?
He's okay.
Okay.
he's the
Oh my
low
gosh,
bidder.
you can't talk
Yes.
I realize that one, but left my lips.
Nothing to disqualify him. He's the low bidder.
Anyway,
Moving dirt
moving
here.
on, rewind. Okay.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Okay, go ahead.
Did we get an actual layout of this plan now, since the last updated one that we had mentioned? That you had said that we were still waiting on getting a final, which I'm sure if you presented this to this good contractor.
There was a
we are
final
going
plan
to
that
have
went out in the
that.
bid documents.
Okay, so can we see that when you get some time or share that with
Yes,
us?
it's on the city webpage as the bid documents.
Okay.
Should have got an email on it.
We can
I
send
know,
out a
but I was
separate
talking
email
about
with,
something
with
for us
the
as
grading
far as
plan.
Not a bid, but
You want the grading plan?
I just want to see what the layout's going to look like
Yeah.
with the plan as far as how this will be or with the proposed lights or different things. And
Councilman Harvey, go ahead.
Yeah. Many of our bids throughout this summer have come in below estimates. Is there any reason why this came in so much, percentage-wise, came in so much higher than the
So
original estimate?
Actually, the bid is just it's just over budget. And if you recall, there are two grading, there's a base bid and then there's a bid that brings it in at a higher level or like a better grading plan. I think it's a 1% grade basically on those fields. And that's the one that we're recommending overdoing Field 3 this year. Now, we may come back at the end of the year, depending on how capital projects come in and revisit that issue with council. But Rich and Nick have reviewed it, and it's their recommendation as well to do the higher level of fields for the project in addition to the parking. So and then do some value engineering as well. There's 3 or 4 categories that they feel comfortable that they'll be able to bring that price down as well. So you've got, what you're getting is a better product at the end of the day. You'll get the 203 parking stalls plus the 4 graded fields at a 1% grade rather than a 5% grade. I believe it was one of the fields, 8%, 6%, I believe it was one of the other fields in the lower grading plan. Lighting is still being worked out as well with one of our local providers as well. And then the department is also looking to add irrigation under those costs as well as a separate contract.
Are you saying that the 587,000 was just the base bid estimate?
It was about 30,000 or so over the base bid?
It was about 28,000.
28,000?
So the extra 120 is for the upgrading the grading?
It will not be another 120,000. It'll be about 78,000. But there is options
I
there to do
think
some
what
things.
Councilman Harvey's seeing is it's showing on the document that the approved budget was 587,000, but the bid was 641,000, so that's more than 28,000.
It was
and
a-
I think that's what his question
Right.
is.
It was a competitive bid with seven vendors.
Except
And
there
they
was-
were fairly tight on those bids.
Yeah.
There were 2 bid options for the grading. A lower level bid, a lower level, I'll call it option.
What is the 587,000? Was that the lower level or the higher level?
The 587 would have been the lower level.
So we only budgeted for the lower level, not
And
for
remember,
the good.
these dollar amounts were put together about 18 months ago. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Right. So with
But
that
that
100
satisfies me if the 587 was at the lower level.
Yes.
And we're upgrading it.
upgrading to
By
a higher
120,000.
level. That's right.
Councilman Saucedo has another question.
what is the timeline of this project?
As soon as we can, this fall, we should be done.
And how long will it take, do you think?
Take to do it or to grow in, to use?
Well, from the time you actually start till the construction is finished?
We've given a timeline of early September to have the grading done, so we can do the seeding. Staff will do the seeding, and then we have a timeline of about 45 days to do the pavement. We're not going to be firm on that pavement. The contractors at the pre-bid meeting asked us to be a little more lenient on that, so we will.
Okay.
Grow in, for your extra people who actually use the facility, we're estimating about 1 year from seeding. We should be, hopefully have a good stand there. We do not want to rush the usage until the grass is ready to be used.
But the parking will be good to go.
Right.
Okay.
This year,
Yeah, that's our intent.
before the snow falls.
Late.
It snows.
It's not gonna snow, it's okay.
Thank you.
I've
So,
seen it in
no, I have-
October, so I'm
I have-
reluctant to
I have
say.
a small question.
Thank you, Rich, we
No,
appreciate it.
no, I have a small
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So since we're deferring the money, the 120,000 for Field 3 and using it to cover the overcosts here, that leaves roughly 65,000 and change. Is that money going to be rolled for,
That's the irrigation funds that they'd like to do the separate contract for, to get the irrigation in and going as
Okay.
well. So you're upgrading the fields and getting the irrigation done. Lighting will be separate,
okay? So it'll still be used, it just won't finish the
not
whole.
as part of
pro-
this contract.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
okay.
And if you get the you can speak to the irrigation better than I can, but my understanding is if we get the water in and the irrigation in, you'll be able to better maintain those fields, and you'll have a better stand of grass over the season.
Without irrigation and the anticipated usage you would have, that would be another passive recreation area, kind of like Iowa Field, kind of like the riverfront, those types of things. We could attempt to put water on it, it will not be close to what it could be.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Hearing nothing else, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert? Councilman Saucedo? Did I say that right? Okay, good. Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We are now on 11I. And presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to One Stop Computer Shop in the amount of $12,680 for the purchase of a network firewall. 6 bids were received, and One Stop Computer Shop was the low bid. There's $13,400 budgeted for this expense. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion?
Just because this is low bid, the equipment or whatever services, it meets all the requirements that we
Are you good
need.
with it, John?
I can.
I don't think
taking
John
low.
would take it if it wasn't
It's the
good.
same equipment, just from a different vendor.
Okay.
I think that's the answer you're gonna get.
That's exactly the answer you're going to get. I'm going to paraphrase what you said earlier. They happen to be the low bidder.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
And my computer will work when I'm up here.
That's user error.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11J. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Kriegers in the amount of $27,732 for the purchase of a 3/4-ton truck to replace the 2000 Chevy utility truck currently being used. The fire department has used the current vehicle for 18 years and it needs to be replaced. The price does not include emergency lighting, decals, and plow, but these can all be purchased without going over the budgeted amount. There's $39,000 budgeted for this expense. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Any discussion?
One question. What are we doing with the old truck?
What do we do for what?
What are we doing with the old truck, the 2000 utility? Is that a trade-in? Is that keeping it, or are we adding?
We have
There
Battalion
you
Chief,
are.
Bronsheimer here tonight, and frankly, I don't recall.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Looking through all my paperwork, we probably put it in auction but I don't think we put it in the bid specs. Well, I wrote the bid, but we didn't put it in as a trade-in,
Okay.
so.
How many miles?
We have a
Maybe
couple
we
of
can
different
find
options.
out what we can do with it.
We'll get you
or-
an answer.
Okay.
So what's the plow for? South
Typically,
End Station?
For both, sir. So typically what happens is the city does help us plow our station and things like that, but what happens is it takes a few hours. With our call volume and everything, we'd like to be able to just clear that out as soon as possible. And sometimes it's early in the morning, we can get our crew down there and clear it out so it's done throughout the day. And so we don't have to rely or even worry about the cities having to add those properties. Most fire departments do that as well. We maintain our own building and things like that. We cut our own grass, so it only makes sense to continue.
Well, and you guys do the sidewalk snow removal at the downtown station too, if
Yes,
I remember correctly. So, okay.
So,
Thank you.
So this,
go ahead.
this truck, it will be used to carry the new boat that you have as well?
Yes, sir. This will be a frontline vehicle, so we will carry the boat. We also carry our air trailer to fire scenes that allow us to refill our SCBA bottles. We use it for various hazmat incidents and things like that to carry more crews instead of taking another apparatus out of service to be able to carry the same crew.
Okay.
Great.
We're good, thank you. Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11K, and presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to ABM Supply in the amount of $15,000 for the purchase of a core pole camera to include an under-the-door camera. This camera will be used to assist with operations and help improve safety for our Special Operations Response Team. There were 3 bids received, and ABM was the low bid. There's $15,000 budgeted for the expense. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion?
One question is, do I remember right that this is similar to something that we bought a while back? No? I was thinking we bought a camera before.
This is a very specialized piece of equipment. For lack of a better way of saying it, it's a camera that you attach to an extendable pole and you have a monitor at the back end. And you can use it to look under doors, around corners, up over things. We have never had a camera such as this for the tactical team.
They have purchased cameras for other
There's other cameras
uses
we
within the
purchased.
department.
That was,
But not,
just seemed like we bought something like this before, but
So let me get this right. So we're probably talking like something you see on TV where the guys stick the little thing and it snakes underneath and...
that would be part of it. That's the under door component to it.
Okay, okay. You can't use a selfie stick in a face iPhone, huh? I just thought I'd... just the...
Well, we could try and rig something, but I'd hate to see what it would look like.
I like this option better than the selfie stick option.
Especially
And I do
public
recall,
safety.
Yeah, and I do recall, we had a fairly lengthy discussion on this in the budget
I
session,
think we
if
did
remember
talk
right,
about it in the
so.
budget hearings.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right.
maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
That might be where you remember it from, Alan.
Most of the things tonight
I
are.
looked it up and everything too.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. Now we're on 11L, and presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Kriegers in the amount of $176,242 for the purchase of 5 Police Tahoe patrol vehicles. The police department replaces at least 5 vehicles every other year. 2 bids were received, and Kriegers was the low bid. There's $238,600 budgeted for this expense. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Harvey. Any discussion?
So what do they do with the other 50 grand?
You have to outfit the vehicles?
Pizza party.
Okay, that's it. I'm good.
Yep, we're good.
I didn't know what it was.
What?
That's it.
I have a question for administration.
Nope,
Did-
go ahead.
did-
No.
No, you can't talk. That's what she just said.
Thank you, Your Honor.
There you go.
Didn't we
Ask your
discuss
question now.
possibly rotating vehicles, purchase of these vehicles out like, 2 or 3 and then 2 or 3 more, at least looking at it?
Looking at it, and this item was budgeted for this year. They're still on a 2-year rotation with the top.
But we're still
with
looking
vehicles.
to scatter it out a little bit more?
That came up at budget where they would try and take a look at it. Whether or not it works, I can't tell you at this point. But yes, that was one of the items that was
Okay.
discussed at budget.
I remember us talking about this, okay.
Yep. That'll be, likely
Even though the
come
mayor
back
said I
with
can't talk about it.
budget time.
She did it.
Just parenthetically, 34,000 some odd dollars is a good price for a Tahoe,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Even a used Tahoe.
even a used one. That's right.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11M, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a lease agreement with Milestone Area Agency on Aging for office space at the Clark House. Milestones provides food and health programs to seniors in 17 Iowa counties, including providing a congregate meal at the Clark House and Hershey Manor. Milestones contacted the housing agency regarding office space, and it was agreed that it would be a good fit given the services provided and the accessibility for area seniors. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11N, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Elliott Equipment in the amount of $9,786 for the purchase of 12 2-yard dumpsters, 1 3-yard dumpster, and 2 4-yard dumpsters. 3 bids were received, and although Elliott was not the low bid, staff has experience with Parkan brand dumpsters from Elliott and feel that they're better quality and the location for picking up the dumpsters is the closest. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion?
The question,
Okay.
is this,
Dave Pop.
Let's pick on the new guy.
Yes, sir.
is this replacing existing? Is this increasing volume? What is it doing?
Both. It replaces existing dumpsters that have rusted out over the years, but also accommodates new customers that are requesting service.
So is it 50/50 or 90/10?
I would say 70/30. 30% replacement with 70% new customers.
Okay, good.
So we're making money on using of dumpsters now?
That's what I wanted to get at. That's what I was looking at. Because if we're losing or we're replacing, that's all. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11O, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Hydro Engineering in the amount of $10,560 for the purchase of 2 660-foot sections of snap-tight heavy-duty 300/900 PSI dragline hose. 3 bids were received to replace old and damaged sections of the dragline hose, and Hydro Engineering was the low bid. There's $15,000 budgeted for this purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Councilman Fitzgerald? Who said Councilman Spread?
Yeah.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Your Honor, is this the first of the bigger diameter, or?
6 inch is the largest. We use 4.5 and 6 inch hose, which we're switching to 5 inch hose now, so.
You're switching to 5 inch? Okay. Is this the first 5 inch than we're buying, or?
Well,
is this-
these are the 6-inch, these are the drag line. This is what actually gets drug on the ground. The other hose is actually what transfers it from the hydrant to where the hose reel connection is, so.
So this is 6-inch,
6-inch
600, and
hose.
so basically you're ordering 1,200 feet
Yep.
or 1,300 feet? Okay.
And we're selling the old stuff.
Well, the old stuff, yeah, we can sell occasionally. It's 10 years old, pretty holy, but.
Yeah.
We keep sections of it so we can repair if we need to, but.
Good.
Thank you, John. Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11P, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to ALL Equipment Company in the amount of $7,699.50 for the purchase of parts to restock the emergency rebuild supply for loadout pumps. These parts are kept in stock because of the length of time it takes to receive them when ordered. 3 bids were received for this project, with the lowest bid from ALL Equipment Company. There's $12,000 budgeted for this expense. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11Q, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a compost site grinding proposal from Bill Miller Logging in the amount of $28,620.03. Bill Miller Logging was the only vendor that was able to provide this service and meet our timeline. This proposal includes grinding and hauling off all material with the exception of 300 cubic yards that we're going to save back for residents and city facilities. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brockert with a second by Councilman Fitzgerald. Brackett. I saw you snickering. Is there any discussion?
I have one question. A while back, we discussed the fineness of the grind on our mulch and compost. Is he proposing a fine grind, or?
Yes, so the 300 cubic yards that I asked them to give us a separate price on was to run it through what's called a 2-inch screen. So it pretty much makes a product like you would see, in the bags that you would buy at vendors.
Okay,
good.
It used to be pretty coarse.
Yeah, typically they run it through what's called a demolition screen, which makes pretty big chunks, so.
Okay.
And as a side note, I frequent the site pretty much all summer long. And whoever is responsible for the rock and the grading, that is a big one. Oh, I mean, that is fantastic, because it was like this before and waterlogged and everything. You go down there and it's rock, it's graded, it's just fantastic. So thank you.
Brian's going to take credit.
Yes, I think he is. He's running up there as fast as he can.
I'm not going to take credit, but what I want to add is once all this material that we're having ground is out of there, that'll allow us to get back in there and regrade the entire thing. And that's our goal, is to have a massive flat surface that the public can drive on and we can use to get material in and out. So that's our
Where are
long-term
you
goal
getting
with
the
this.
rock from the
We
ground?
have, it's actually reground concrete and asphalt that we get from our
Okay,
grinding.
that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
So maybe Brian or you can help us out. We're leaving 300 cubic yards.
Correct.
How many cubic yards is he taking and throwing, disposing, removing,
Approximately, the way the pile sits, it's about 4,000 cubic yards of unground. He's estimating,
Ton.
I think,
Tons.
30 loads he'll haul out of there, 30 semi-loads.
Yeah, semi-loads.
Yeah. A semi-load is
Tons.
roughly 100 cubic
Yeah.
yards, so.
Okay.
Wow.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11R, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a proposal from Barger Lamar Engineering for groundwater sampling. The city installed 5 new wells at the landfill in 2018, and the DNR requires the wells be sampled 5 times each year. In addition, each new well will need a low-flow sampling apparatus installed. Staff recommends that City Council approve the proposal from Barker Lamar for the estimated total of $6,058.10. This expense will be taken out of the fiscal year 19 landfill operating budget. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second. Alan.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilman We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11S. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve an additional day for Barker Lamar staff to perform annual groundwater sampling. The City of Muscatine has an existing agreement for groundwater sampling that did not include the 5 new wells. This agreement is for an additional $3,400 to cover the 5 new wells. This expense will be taken out of the fiscal year 19 landfill operating fund. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Spread with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11T. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request for the issuance of a purchase order to Muscatine Lawn and Power in the amount of $9,448.39 for the purchase of a zero-turn mower for the cemetery. 4 bids were received, and the low bid was from Muscatine Lawn and Power. There's $10,000 budgeted for this expense. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion?
Is this a John Deere? It's not, okay.
What's going to happen to the old one?
You didn't sit there all night for nothing.
With the additional 23 properties that the Parks system has gained over the past couple of years, we're going to transfer that mower to the Park Maintenance Division to help mow those additional properties.
What other 23? We purchased 23 more properties, is that what you're saying, or we got 23 more
We
properties?
received 23 that we have the ability to go out and maintain now.
And that we're also trying to get rid of.
Okay,
at the
so,
same time.
okay.
Plus all the right-of-way, trail right-of-ways
Yeah,
that
the
they've
trails.
added.
Oh, yeah.
We
yeah,
have
yeah.
added
All
to
right,
their
okay.
list.
Okay, yeah, that's why I saw a little sense of enthusiasm in that. I'm good with that. Thank you, Nick.
We got it. Hearing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11U. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a professional services agreement in the amount of $11,500 to IW for the construction, observation, and contract administration phase of the Hauser Street parking expansion and athletic field grading project. The firm was chosen because they have experience and detail of this project. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett, or Harvey, with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion?
So when you say experience, is that somebody that we've worked with in the past?
This is John Lutz. They designed the project.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay, so they'll be working with a contractor to make sure everything goes as planned. Okay, great.
Just when you said that experience, I just thought, where does that come from?
Where it come from?
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11V. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a proposal from Martin and Whitaker for the West Side Trail final design and environmental clearances. The route study is complete, and the final design has been awarded to Martin Whitaker. The second portion of the final design is to get the National Environment Policy Act Is that NEPA or NEPA?
NEPA.
NEPA. The second portion is to get that NEPA work done. Staff recommends that City Council approve the proposal from Martin and Whitaker team in the amount of $55,000 for the NEPA environmental clearances. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Is there any discussion?
Yep. Yes, Your Honor. What does NEPA require?
Jim's been hiding over there all night.
I did not want him to go unnoticed.
He's gonna stay up there too.
Mayor, Council, NEPA is a National Environmental Policy Act. Any project that has federal money in it is required to go through that to get the endangered species, wetlands, SHPO, the State Historical Office, state archaeologists, that sort of stuff, make sure there's not any cultural resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that are impacted adversely by that federal money that's spent. So this trail has to go looking for those things. We don't know that there are any.
That was one question. Do we have any inkling that there are any?
The study that we did, hopefully you remember allocating some money to do a route study for that trail. One of the absolute most important parts of that route study was to select a route that would minimize these impacts. So I have a very positive outlook on this, is that we're not going to find anything of any consequence. We'll get a programmatic categorical exclusion on this NEPA study, and that will be the end of it. So it will be a relatively simple thing. That's what we can hope for. You never know.
Since Martin Whitaker did the initial survey, they probably have a good idea what they're going to find anyway.
Yeah, I think that's, and there was a little bit of environmental work that was done as part of that survey too, to identify any of those items. But a sub to Martin Whitaker is going to do this work, a firm that specializes in the environmental work.
Does this require, is it paperwork or actually going out and drilling holes once in a while, or what do they do?
There is both. There's a little bit of a site investigation, shallow holes they dig, but the majority of the information that they do and go out and look at is historical records, and old aerial photographs, stuff like that. Anything else?
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The request is approved with all ayes. We are on 14, communication from council members. Councilman Harvey, do you have anything tonight?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilman Spread?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Councilman Malcolm?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Yes, I'd like to thank John Cook for coming to my ward meeting on Monday night. Everyone really enjoyed the presentation, and it is so great to see someone with so much passion and love for what he does.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Councilman Saucedo?
I just have one request, if I could, from Jim.
Oh, is that why you said for him to stay up there?
I'd like to see if we could just get a brief update, maybe 2 minutes, of where we're at on Mississippi Drive, and maybe when it may open.
No, don't breathe.
I thought that was early retirement.
Could be.
Just Mississippi Drive?
Just the Mississippi Drive portion.
The contractor's making good progress. We had a coordination meeting with them this morning. All the pavement should be done. There's a subcontractor working out there putting brick pavements in those specialty areas. The landscapers are scheduled to be in hopefully next week. Weather is a little dependent on that, how wet it gets, et cetera, et cetera. They are still holding to the line that mid-September, they want to be complete. And I think if you all would remember something other than that, I said into August, early September was what they were planning for. I will still tell you that completion is still exactly that. Somewhere in the end of August, early September. I truly believe that they will be done with Mississippi Drive portion tied into Mulberry by the end of the contract deadline, which is sometime in October, late October. The Second Street portion of it will be done.
Does the Mississippi Drive then, is it going to have all the lights and everything in place, or is that still something we need to coordinate with MPW?
The street lights?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that will be done too.
Okay.
The only portion of that won't be done at that point in time is the intersection at Second and Mulberry.
Yep. Yep.
And the removal of the power poles on the riverfront. There's still some electrical work that needs to be done, coordinated with MPW, and that's going to tail a little bit after that. Okay.
But the Mississippi Drive will be operational even though those power lines aren't buried yet?
Yeah, no, Mississippi Drive will be, yeah,
The conduit's-
absolutely.
The conduit's in place.
Yeah, all the stuff to put it underground is there. Yes, all the infrastructure to do that.
So Jim, I'm getting a lot of calls from people on 7th Street.
On 7th Street?
Yes, that their sewers, the sewer part's all in, but the paving isn't done. And they're hearing stories like, well, the same company that's working on Mississippi Drive is gonna do 7th Street, and they're busy on Mississippi Drive, so they're not doing 7th Street. And the homeowners are getting up in arms about the sewer being done, but the paving not done.
First of all,
And I talked to Steve today.
First of all, I don't believe that there's any delay in either one of those two projects
Okay.
because of the other project.
Okay.
There has been more time involved on the first two blocks from Cedar to Iowa. There's been more time on that than what we wanted to, but I hope the council remembers that because of the 4th of July parade, we leapfrogged over there and did that Iowa Street intersection, and that's a significant amount of time that it delayed those other two blocks. But with that, that's paved. There's just a little bit more work to do there. The Sycamore intersection would have been paved today if we could have had weather. I mean, it was all ready to roll, and once that's done, we'll have it open. So let's just say, measure
But
that
then
one.
on the other side of Sycamore up to Lynn.
Yep. There is still more to do there. But, I mean, obviously that hasn't been closed anywhere near as long as those other two pieces. I would imagine most of your complaints are coming from those first two blocks. At least the ones I hear are coming from there.
I think they're all visiting now because they're starting to call and.
Yeah, well, there's a nice new street out there. They can walk out there and have fun and no traffic and.
Well, a lot of what I'm hearing is they're having to park in the back, which is
Yes.
fine, except for they don't all have concrete there, so they're parking in their yards. Their yards, when it rains now, are becoming big mud hole pits and all tore up, so.
Very soon. Very
Good.
soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all
Thank
I
you.
have.
It was your turn anyway.
That's all I have, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Councilman Brackett?
Santos actually got the question asked that I wanted, so
Okay.
I'm good. Thanks.
All right, staff.
Just a reminder that Parks and Rec have left the building, but we do have College Search Kickoff coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is they've been able to take on this project in a short amount of time. It's not something that's new to them. It's just new to running the program. So I'm sure they would be happy to take any and all volunteers. If people are interested, they should contact the Park and Rec Department and talk to Rich, and we will get you lined up to help down at the College Search Kickoff. We'll have over 70 teams, I think around 70 teams, 150 coaches from around the region. So it's a good tournament for the community and our youth. So.
And I just had a couple things. Our guest for our city next week is Tony Tone, and we're going to find out the correct pronunciation of his last name. Some say Loconzol, some say La Consol, so we're going to see. He's a very avid community volunteer, as most of you know. And Nicole Ashby, our animal control officer, is going to be here. Reminder, we have no council meeting next week, so everyone have a nice couple weeks, and we'll see you back here August 2nd. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Well, I guess I started my blooper reel tonight.